together by building synergies, by putting our efforts together. And this brings me to some of the questions that have been raised in the chat and also in the question and answer. Thank you very much for being very active and for your questions. One question that came up refers to building resilience in Africa. Small island nations. The question that came up was about not only facing the pandemic as a disaster, but also facing other natural disasters like the oil spill in Mauritius that devastated the tourism industry, but also affected the ability of the country to take advantage of the blue economy. And the question to the African Union and the African Development Bank is how can you build the resilience of African countries so that when they face disasters like that, their economies are not devastated. There was also another question to do with how Jobs for Africa Foundation can help entrepreneurs, especially in the digital economy, the youth. I was just going to announce that Jobs for Africa Foundation is part of the African Union 1 million by 2021, which seeks to empower African youth through employment, through education, through entrepreneurship, and through civic engagement. And we are actually going to work with the Nasser Youth Forum to set up a soft skills training program for African youth, and this will be supported by the African Union. We'll also have another initiative on entrepreneurship, on digital skills. So this is in response to that question. We are short of time, but just before Jamal speaks, is there someone, Leila or Robert, who would like to say something, or Ms. Osman?
Maybe very quickly on how to support countries that are facing an important crisis, and maybe more than that. I think there are, from the African development perspective, there are different ways of doing it, the short-term response and the more medium-term response. The short-term response is to provide them with resources, with budget supports, mainly, of course, backed by reforms, but to provide them as quickly as possible with financial resources to help them to cope with this crisis. The second is to look at private sector needs and work through the commercial banks to support in the short term, like I explained before, with liquidity facilities and guarantees, really to maintain at least what can be maintained in the economy. On the more longer term, I think the main way to do it is to work hand in hand with the government through also you need some economic and sector work to understand what needs to be done. And third, the last one, but not the least, is to really create this synergies between all the multilateral development banks and donors to make sure that we have one response, at least one coordinated response in front of or before this country. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'll also add a little bit to that as well, and just saying that for this issue of resilience for disasters, I think a very critical issue is, of course, a comprehensive policy that cuts across sectors. One of the challenges we've had in many of our states is we haven't really had a comprehensive disaster prevention and disaster management policy. Very often our approach to many disasters has been reactive, not a proactive approach. And so that's been a big challenge that we've faced, this reactive nature to disasters. So I think we need to think a lot about an effective disaster prevention policy, and I think that's very central. The other issue, of course, is to diversify our risks. For example, for island economies in areas like tourism, it's vital that also we diversify sources of tourism, because we've tended to rely a lot on certain traditional sources of tourism, especially Europe, North America. So I think we need to open up new sources, maybe that are more resilient in Asia and probably Eastern Europe that we've relied less on. Also, inter-African tourism, not much has been done to develop inter-African tourism. You remember the statistic I gave, that 95% of our tourists come from outside the continent. Why should this be when
Robert, sorry.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, your mic is back on. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so just talking about diversifying sources of tourism, not relying on traditional tourism and sources, like, for example, Europe and North America, diversifying more into Asia, and also giving a lot of emphasis to developing tourism sources from within Africa, because Africa is one of the fastest growing areas of the middle class. So increasingly, we're going to have more and more upper middle class people, and these people are going to be able to afford to travel, but we haven't focused on them in our tourism strategies. So we've continued to rely on traditional sources. So I think that diversification of sources of tourism is very important for the island economies, particularly, and also for other African countries that rely on tourism. And then what we mentioned before, just a core pillar in all these areas is innovation, to continue innovating products in tourism and in other areas. So continuous product innovation also will help to increase resilience towards shocks. Thank you.
Robert, and some other disasters that have also been mentioned are to do with
Je vous rappelle. Allô?
Jamal, you're on. Oui?
Okay, just before we go to Jamal, so disasters, other disasters that have been mentioned were the locust situation in Eastern Africa, for example, that caused a lot of fear in terms of food security. I think that was mentioned by one of the people, but I think Robert did respond well about putting together a comprehensive disaster management strategy or policy. There was two questions on brain drain and domestic resource mobilization. Who would like to tackle that? Ross Osman?
Before we go to that question, I just wanted to continue on the questions on about Mauritius, and just to inform you that in the African Union, we are working on a comprehensive strategy on blue economy, and that most of the coastal all of the coastal member states are implied in this, and the government of Seychelles actually is the champion. And the blueprint of this strategy will touch on thematic area like fishery, aquaculture, conservation, sustainability in aquatic ecosystem, shipping, transportation, trade, ports, maritime security, safety and enforcement, coastal and maritime tourism, but also climate change, resilience, environment, infrastructure, sustainable energy. So just wanted to reassure the colleague from Mauritius that and Professor Mudida also, you are welcome and I will invite you. We are working on this comprehensive strategy on blue economy.
Thank you very much.
So I would just like to stop here now.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we go to Jamal, because I think we have now to summarize. In any case, this conversation will continue. If your questions on domestic resource mobilization have not been answered, do not worry. This is an ongoing dialogue that Jobs for Africa Foundation will continue with you so that we can propose practical solutions for a continent to move forward. Jamal?
Yes, thank you, Frédéric, for managing this roundtable. Thank you for all our distinguished speakers. I would like just to give some ideas we can go forward if you want to continue together, and I think we want to. For Jobs for Africa, when we decided to create it, we have some workshop with lots of partners, and we shaped 10 initiatives. The first one was to say we have with our partnership, our partner states and union and employers, to create the condition for growth, because as we said, there is no companies if there is no growth and there's no condition for growth. So we won't create jobs if we don't have enterprises. But first, creating the condition of growth. The second initiative was how to formalize real social dialogue, because we all know that we need to be inclusive in each step we want to go through with the unions. The third initiative is how to develop entrepreneurial activities in all Africa, because we know that our youth wants to entrepreneurship their ideas in somewhere in digital area or other sectors, but we have to put in place means and incentives to help them to go through it. The fourth initiative was about skills, how to train people in order to be aligned with the market demand. This is key. The labor market is asking for some skills, soft skills, so we have to build a real strategy to help these companies having these youth well skilled. The fifth initiative was about how to develop labor market intermediation, because we know that we are very weak in intermediation systems. That's why I think countries have to put also lots of means to go through it. The sixth is about employment and employability observatory. I am really happy to know there is one, like our friend of Mozambique. But for example, in Morocco, we have one, but there is no tools, there is no statistics, we have no information about how and how much new jobs we will need in the coming years. To do some prospective studies, we are very weak on these areas. The seventh is about the incentive plan to encourage businesses and associations to hire people. And also we know that we can create jobs not only within enterprises, but also within NGOs, because nowadays NGOs have to be more professional in their area. So they will need skills, they will need competencies, so they will need to create also jobs. the other way is also how to develop the tripartite social dialogue and pact, because this is have to be shaped. The tripartite, I know that is a key point for the ILO, but in countries it's not the case. So we also have to struggle this, to tackle this, because it's very key if you want to struggle on this unemployment youth and to find the way to create jobs and help companies to create jobs. And the consequences of this tripartite social dialogue is also how to help these unions to build capacities, because also we know they are very weak in this area in terms of skills, in terms of means to professionalize themselves. And then the end of this is also very key to put in place how to assess this whole plan, to pilot the results and to see where are we going through all this plan. Because as all of you said a few moments ago, this issue of unemployment is very key for the future. We have lots of partners who really do a great job. The ILO, the UA, the African Bank, the European Commission also, all these guys should be put around the table and work together, as said Leila a few moments ago. We, as I said, in the first of this round table, we need to have the collective intelligence at the heart of this debate. If we want to find results, we have to find a new way of thinking. We have to reinvent the way of shaping policies, and we need strong policies if we really want to have some results. This is my conclusion, Frédéric, and I want really to thank again our friends and to say that to go through, I will suggest one thing is how the African Union and African Development Bank and Jobs for Africa could take a huge initiative to reunify all these stakeholders in this matter of employment, to build a huge conference of skills for jobs and jobs for growth, and also measures for growth. I'm really convinced that we have to take this initiative and sooner, because I think this issue couldn't wait. Thank you, Frédéric.
Thank you, Jamal. Could I ask Eduardo and Ron Osman to put on their video? Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So,
yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My last words again to thank for sharing, and also request the organizers to facilitate the sharing of these very important and rich presentations that were made here, so that we also share within our offices with our principals as what is happening around the world. You know, it's very important. We are not looking at Mozambique as such, but we're looking at the SADC region as a whole. Because if jobs are created in one region and other regions are not generating any jobs, it means that that island will be invaded. So our approaches must be common. We have to join efforts and also build these synergies that are very important to address the challenges that we have, you know, that were caused by the COVID-19. So we are steadfast in overcoming those challenges, in driving, you know, our development process that we have for the next 5 years and beyond. So I want to thank you, and also thank the participants for sharing these very important approaches that were put across, that we shared here. Thank you very much, the organizers. Jobs for Africa should be the way forward. Thank you.
Could you turn on your video, please, for the last
turn on
picture,
your video.
And we're gonna say hi to each other. or bye-bye maybe, because we're about to be kicked out actually from the room. Could you turn on your video? Eduardo?
Your video is
Yes.
not on. Turn on your video, please.
Oh, yes.
Oh, here we
Okay.
are. Okay, smile.
Okay, a smile.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're in the
you.
box. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And I just,
Thank
before
you.
we conclude, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Emma and Laura, who are in Spain, who
Yes.
have done an excellent job of facilitating our communication, interpreting into French and English. Thank you very much, Emma and Laura. We are very much indebted to you. I also wanted to thank some of the companies, partners who continue to support us, JIC Holdings and JIC Media. They supported us when we went to the African Union last year, and they still continue to support us. All the other partners, the African Union, the African Development Bank, Leila, my friend Robert, Professor Robert Mudida. I have problems calling you professor because you've been a friend for a long time, but Professor Robert Mudida, and you can see that the African Union is looking forward to working with you in this comprehensive risk mitigation strategy. And so we look forward to bringing the different partners together, because that is the motto of the Just for Africa Foundation. No one can do this alone. We need to bring together our collective intelligence, as Jamal was saying, so that we can take our continent forward. Until next time, thank you, and you'll be hearing from us. Go to our website to get access to the documents that have been shared. And I would like to appeal to you to trust African youth. The Jobs for Africa Foundation has actually been redone by young people, volunteers, and you will see that they've done a very good job. So if you want your website done, trust African youth, because they have digital skills that can rival any other group from all over the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Fred.
Bye-bye now. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.